When a gang of criminals kidnap a young girl with the hope of getting a ransom from her billionaire father, the tables quickly turn when the young girl turns out to be a vampire who hunts down her captors while performing some top-tier ballet moves. Will the gang make it out alive, or will they meet their end at the hands of the infamous Abigail? This is a movie that I've wanted to make a video on ever since I seen it in cinemas when it came out, and if you know anything about me, you know that little girls in these types of movies are my kryptonite. Not because I'm an Epstein fan or anything, don't get it twisted, it's because they scare me to my core. If I have a daughter in the future and I'm walking down a hallway and she comes out with hair over her face, I'm going to volley her into next week, and Abigail is no exception. So follow me as we experience the carnage together. The movie starts with Abigail performing some banging ballet moves in front of no one? Ooh, that's rough. But while she is dancing her heart out for Casper and the boys, we see a group of people getting set up for what looks to be a heist. Once they get set up, one of the boys is on top of a roof watching Abigail drive into the estate, while some of the others hide inside Abigail's room and wait. Very sus indeed. Abby comes into the room, and just as she gets comfortable, the boys jump out and pin her down and inject her with some substance, knocking her out. Then they rendezvous with the gang outside of the gate and they drive off. And yes, this is Angus Cloud from Euphoria fame. A fun fact is, this is actually his last movie that he was in, and the entire movie is actually in memoriam to him. Rest in peace to a rising star gone way too young. As they are driving to their location, we get this nice aerial shot of... oh? What is this? This is my home city, Dublin. It is so rare to see Dublin in movies that aren't like Irish films. So when I saw this shot of the Rivi Liffey... what? The Liffey River. Oh man, I'm not in it today. When I saw that shot, I genuinely turned into that meme from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because I had no idea that this movie was filmed in my ends. So I just wanted to touch on that. It's kind of exciting for me. But anywho, they eventually pull up to the location, which is this big fuck off mansion. Once they go inside the mansion, we meet with the brains of the operation, Lambert. And it's here where we get a bit more clarity about what the plan actually is, and the crew themselves only get clarity as to why they kidnapped a child then and there, which is kind of crazy actually now that I think about it. He explains that Abigail is the daughter of a very, very wealthy man, and the reason they kidnapped her was to hold her for ransom for $50 million. So all the gang need to do is hunker down, make themselves comfortable, and watch over the child for the night, and make sure nothing goes wrong. But when anyone asks who the father is, he refuses to answer, and he ends the conversation by saying the hard part is over now. Whenever you hear that in movies, the hard part has only just begun. Now, I'm sure you are wondering why I haven't mentioned anybody's names. I usually do that at the start of the movie, but that's because one of the rules that they stipulated is no real names. So to avoid confusion, Lambert gives them aliases, which go as follows: Joey, Frank, Dean, Sammy, Peter, and Don fucking Rickles. Not much really happens for the next little while other than, you know, characters getting acquainted with each other, and pretty much the only real thing that we find out there is that Joey is a recovering drug addict. And one other thing that is worth mentioning is Joey goes up to see Abigail for the first time, and she is surprisingly gentle towards this girl. Abigail says that her hands are uncomfortable, so Joey moves her handcuffs to the front, and she also asks Joey to take her blindfold off, and she actually does it. And Abigail also asking her if she has any kids. She says she does, but she refuses to say the name, so Abigail calls him Justin instead. Might seem like I'm just throwing that in there as useless information, but believe me, it comes back around later. But the main reason I felt the need to talk about this moment is what happens now. As Joey goes to leave, Abby calls her back and says,
"I'm sorry about what's gonna happen to you."
Fuck that. I'd be gone. Joey then goes down to Frank and asks him who the girl's father is, and he says that he doesn't know. But Joey keeps pushing and says that she wants to know because it seems like he is a violent man. Now obviously this must have piqued some interest in Frank, because he goes straight up to Abigail to question her, but he makes the silly mistake of walking into the room without a mask. He then asks who her father is, and her answer scares him to his core so much that he instantly tries to dip out of there. Her dad's name is Christophe Lazar. When the others are trying to stop him from evacuating the premises, he tells them her father's name, and some of them do not know who this man is, but the others don't believe it because he is known as an urban legend. They eventually convince him to stay, and they start discussing a game plan, and they take this a lot more seriously. Now for the next little bit, not much happens. There's a lot of downtime at the start of this movie, and I know you just want to get to the carnage, so I'll speedrun it as fast as I possibly can, but there are some things that I am going to have to talk about to make the movie make sense. While investigating the painting, Dean hears a noise coming from inside the kitchen, so he goes to investigate. When he gets to the kitchen, he comes across the cause of the commotion: a rat who was just running around and squeaking and shit. Dean is relieved and brushes it off, turning around to walk back up the stairs, but before he could even get up 2 steps, he hears a crunch and then the squeaking stops. When he turns around to check what happens, he gets grabbed by the tootsies and pulled down the stairs. He holds onto the banisters for a good bit, but alas, he gets pulled away off screen. Sammy, who was just chilling in a room watching some Looney Tunes or some shit, heard his screams and goes to investigate. But when she gets to the kitchen, she sees Dean sitting at the kitchen table. She starts mouthing off to him, assuming that he was just trying to scare her, but as soon as she touches him, his head falls clean off. Her screams alert the rest of the crew, who all gather around the kitchen table and try to figure out what happened. And that's when Dawn brings up an infamous hitman that works for Lazar called Valdez, whose victims were all killed in an identical way to Dean. This then makes them believe that they're not alone in this house and even makes them question each other. They go to check on Abby to make sure she hasn't been rescued, and she is still where they left her. They all try to leave the house with the intention of leaving the girl there so that Valdez can come and get her easily. But once they open the front door, they realise there is a metal gate that is locked right out front. They unsuccessfully try to break it open with a bit of brute force, but instead of setting them free, it traps them even further, putting the house into lockdown. Joey goes up to speak to Abigail by herself and asks her, has anybody other than her and Frank been in this room with her? She says no, but Joey knows that she is hiding something, so she asks her to pinky promise that she's not keeping a secret. The old binding vow. But Abigail is not one to make promises she can't keep, and she goes on to spill that when Frank was in with her before, Frank said that he works for her father, and also said that he will kill her. And she also goes on to say the name Valdez. But after this moment, Joey goes to check on Dawn. Dawn comes out of the room and they have a bit of a conversation, and Rickles has a big speech about how they are not going to die here. But quite literally, a second later, he dies. Motherfucker doesn't even get to the end of the hallway and his whole face and neck is mauled. Joey instantly goes down and confronts Frank with her gun drawn, but he ends up distracting her for long enough that he can pull out his own, leaving them in a bit of a standoff. But while they are in their standoff, Peter realizes what he needs to do and runs up to Abby's room with the intention of shooting her. Joey runs straight after him and stops him from killing her, which results in a big argument breaking out between our gang. But while they're distracted arguing with each other, Abby undoes her handcuffs, stands up, does a nice little bow, and then turns into a vampire. She leaps at Joey, but Frank hits her with one of the nicest headshots I've ever seen. Fucking bullseye. But unfortunately, she brushes it off like it was nothing. But when Sammy sees her quite literally brushing away a headshot, she instantly runs away in one of the most relatable scenes I've ever seen in one of these movies. Had me giggling like a fucking schoolgirl. But they eventually get out of the room unscathed and lock Abby inside. They all gather around downstairs and start discussing what they actually seen. And this is where I give this movie a lot of brownie points, because the characters are not stupid. They know what a vampire is. So they start coming up with a game plan, listing off all of the things from any source of media that has been depicted to work against vampires. Sammy gets sent to go and get some garlic, but when she comes back,
I got him!
Sammy, those are fucking onions.
Those are fucking onions. This movie is unironically comedy gold, and Peter gets sent to the pool table to make some wooden stakes out of the pool cues. Now this next moment is fucking brilliant. They all make their way up to Abby's room with pool cues in hand, but when they get there, Abby is nowhere to be seen. They then start to hear some music coming from upstairs, so they go to investigate. When they get to the source of the music, they walk in to Abigail slow dancing with Dean's headless body, and when she realizes they are no longer alone, she drops it as if she was caught doing something naughty. Like, let's be real, that's just plain rude, interrupting such an intimate moment. Abigail tries to revert back to the innocent stunt, but the rest of the gang aren't buying it anymore. So what do you do when you've been caught up in a lie? Start throwing hands. She jumps onto Sammy, who tries to fight her off with garlic, but Abigail grabs the garlic and takes a big whiff of it. Peter pulls her off of Sammy, but unfortunately he gets the worst deal. She turns around and starts stabbing him upwards of like 100 times in the chest with a crucifix. Then Frank, feeling a little bit left out of the action, jumps in and instantly regrets it because Abby stabs him through the leg with his own pool cue. Now this is where things get a little bit interesting, because instead of of, you know, killing them on the spot, Abby just lets them leave. They go back downstairs to Joey, who patches them up as best as she can, and Frank says that she is fucking with us. She is playing with her food. The gang is at a loss because everything they thought of was not effective, and that's when Joey comes up with a plan to use another syringe to knock her out. They all agree with this plan and they split up. For whatever fucking reason. We then get a few shots of each of the gang searching around the mansion. And while Sammy is investigating, she ends up falling into a pool of hundreds of decomposing bodies. Oh, man. Sickening. I'm probably gonna have to blur it, but fuck me, I felt sick. But while Sammy is dealing with the trauma of what she had just experienced, Peter screams out as if he has been murdered.
Peter!
I got a splinter on my finger, a huge one, from the stupid stick.
Like, this movie's fucking hilarious. Peter then comes into contact with Abigail and instantly makes a run for it, while Abby is in hot pursuit while performing some sick moves.
Vampire on my ass!
You gotta hand it to our gal, she is stylish with it. But it isn't actually Abby that is the downfall of young Peter. It is Frank, who opens a door at a very unfortunate time, knocking him over the banisters and winding him. But he is still alive. But Frank is now in contact with Abigail, who proceeds to absolutely mollywop this man down the staircase. And while this is all happening, Sammy pulls back up after her nice day at the decomposition spa.
Oh, what the fuck? I'm here.
Abigail starts choking Frank and Joey goes to inject her, but she knocks it out of her hand, and it lands behind a gate that she can barely reach. So while she is busy doing that, the rest of the gang have to fend her off. Sammy pulls Abigail off of Frank, but unfortunately gets bitten in the process. And out of nowhere, from the top rope as a matter of fact, Peter belly flops on top of Abigail, pinning her to the ground, giving them enough time to inject her and knock her out. Now, this scene, like, I don't know how much acting experience this little girl has, but fuck me, she is incredible. It's shit like this that really makes you feel that you are fucking talentless. Abigail wakes back up and she is locked in an elevator shaft. She goes on to honestly speak facts.
We're very sorry, okay? We thought you were just a regular 12-year-old girl.
You were gonna beat me and torture me when you thought I was just a regular 12-year-old girl.
Like, I can't argue with that. But during this scene is when we get a huge reveal. It turns out that Abigail was the mastermind behind this whole thing. Lambert actually works for her, and everybody on the crew is somebody that has done her father wrong. She goes on to say that she is a few centuries old and she's just bored at this point. She then goes on to out the entire group. I won't be going through everything that she says, but she cuts deep. And she basically lays out all of the reasons that she picked these people specifically. Joey then starts ripping into Abigail, and what happens next genuinely gave me chills.
And for what? Because you're fucking bored?
What can I say? I like playing with my food. I'll rip your fucking hands off and gorge myself on your blood.
Just wow. Wow. This actress is like 12, bro. 12! At that age, I was arguing with my friends about the fact that no, I do have a magical shield around me that protects me from any magical spells whenever we were playing superheroes. But back to the movie, she gives the boys a proposition. She says that she will let 2 people go if someone lets her out. After a bit of persuading, Peter almost does it, getting so close to the point that Joey has to shoot him. And after that chain of events, Frank gets told to stay with Abigail while they go upstairs and figure out a plan to get out of here. Now, while they're by themselves, Abigail hits Frank with some persuasion. She says that the offer still stands, and if he lets her out, she will let him go. Not only that, she will tell him how to get out. Frank then hits her with an Uno reverse card, asking her to tell him the information before he lets her out. She makes a deal and tells him how to get out of the house. And it is a specific book in the library that you need to pull down that will open a doorway. Oh, very stereotypical, I must say. After Frank gets told, he instantly starts to walk away, but when Abby calls him out on his treachery, he goes back to the door, pretends to unlock it, and then starts talking shit to Abigail. To which Abigail responds by punching the door off of the hinges and lunging onto Frank. But luckily, even though Frank has been a dick towards Joey this entire movie, she comes and saves his ass by letting some sunlight into the room, which hits off Abby's arm and blows it the fuck up. Didn't expect it to be that violent, I'm not gonna lie. I can't even show this on YouTube, but even just like the fucking effects of her hand growing back, crazy. Like, it's really cool. While Abby is recuperating, they all rendezvous to the library because it has a whole area that is full of sunlight. Instantly, Frank starts looking for the way out that Abby talked about and realizes that she lied to him. Shocker, I know. Sammy then comes up with a pretty genius plan actually to look around the house and try to find the generator, because if they can turn the generator off, it could undo the lockdown so they can get out. But of course, for some fucking reason, this plan involves them splitting up. And now, for a little bit of context. Earlier, we know that Sammy got bitten, right? Peter goes with Sammy and Frank goes with Joey. And after some very intense searching, we see a shot of Abigail putting a record into the record player, which is then followed by her whispering Sammy's name as she starts to transform, and she tries to scream out to Peter, but a cat's got her tongue, or Abby's got her tongue. And now, unlike in other vampire movies where, you know, they are independent, they might be loyal to the vampire that made them, but they are independent beings. But in this, Abigail quite literally controls Sammy, pretty much turning her into her puppet. But unfortunately, this ends with Peter getting his neck ripped out and killed. Sammy then uses the walkie-talkie to tell everybody that they have run into Abigail, and when they get there, Abigail is trying to pretend to be Sammy, and she's doing a terrible job at it. They suspect that something's wrong and ask Sammy to come to them, and before she even turns around, Joey tells Frank to run. A chase then ensues, which leads them to the library once again, and just when Sammy gets close to them and is about to attack, Joey uses a silver platter to direct a sunbeam towards Sammy, blowing her to smithereens.
Holy shit.
That was fucking... Whoa.
There are a lot of relatable moments in this movie, but that one takes the cake. But after this moment, a doorway opens in the bookshelf, and I don't know why they were so keen to go into it, because obviously it's a trap, but they choose to go anyway, and they come across a surveillance room where Lambert is located. Frank freaks out and goes to attack him, and this is when we find out that Lambert is also a vampire. He then offers to turn somebody into a vampire, and Joey instantly responds with fuck that. He says he wasn't talking to her and pretty much just knocks her out instantly and throws her across the room. He repeats the offer and says if there's two of them, they could kill Abby and then take on Lazar and take down the whole fucking thing, because he is sick of working for Abby. He's sick of being a babysitter. And this gets through to Frank, and he accepts. He basically bites Frank, then cuts his own arm and feeds Frank his blood, which causes Frank to throw up obsessive amount of blood. But while Frank is turning, Joey wakes up and Lambert goes over to finish her off. But when he is about to finish the job, he gets staked through the heart from the back and absolutely explodes. It was Frank. Frank double-crossed the double-crosser. And now when I first saw this movie, I thought like, oh, you know, maybe Frank is going to be on our side and help us now. No, it takes a very, very different turn. Frank in this movie is a prick. So he just tells Joey to run. So now it's not just Abby that we have to worry about, it's also this prick. Well, speaking of Abby, she comes into the room after he has been transformed and does what she does best, talking a load of shit to him. She then goes to attack Frank, and after all of that talk, this is kind of embarrassing because Frank instantly counters her and starts draining her blood. Instantly, like barely even any competition. While Frank is busy with Abby, Joey makes a run for it, and when she realizes that she can't find her way out, she has a nice sentimental moment where she tries to call her child, and Frank of course has to come and ruin the fun. He basically starts playing with her, throwing her all around the library and fucking her up really, and just talking a load of shit to her. One of the things being that he is going to turn her into his puppet and make her kill her own child. Then throws her from the top floor of the library, where Abby comes in clutch with a nice slide tackle and saves her. She says to Joey that she is not strong enough anymore to beat him by herself, so if she helps her beat Frank, she will let her go. Now, it does not go as well as they expected, because they basically get rocked in every shape of the word. Joey gets pinned with a fucking fire poker to a wall, and then Frank goes to finish the job on Abby. He then turns his attention to Joey again, and this scene is sickening, so if you have a weak stomach, don't look. Instead of, pulling the fire poker out and, making it easier for everybody, he decides to be a prick and pulls Joey away from the wall, causing her to literally fucking get penetrated by the whole fucking poker. I don't know what other way to put that. The fire poker goes through her. He then bites Joey turning her. He then orders Joey to go and finish off Abby, and she seems to be obliging. Or so he believes, because once she gets close to Abby, she turns and tries to attack Frank, which doesn't go so well, but Abby then steps in and they tag team this motherfucker. And just before they kill him, Abby ends it with a banger of a line.
Here's the thing about being a vampire, Frank. It takes a long fucking time to learn how to do all the cool shit.
Oh, fuck.
Now I love how like awkward this next moment is, because they're just sitting there in blood, just neither of them knowing what to say to each other. Joey then starts to walk out of the mansion because Abby is a woman of her word, but just before she leaves, Abby calls to her again and says that I hope you get Justin back, as a nice little callback to what she called him at the start. But before Joey can even respond, she screams saying, "Daddy, no," and big boy Daddy Vampire has shown up to play. He throws Joey back into the house, and it seems like he is about to get down and dirty with this person. Abby pleads with him to let her live because she saved her life, and when he doesn't listen and starts getting angry with her, Abby responds by saying, "She was here when you weren't," and somehow that ends up getting through to him and lets Joey go, and ends it by saying it's getting awfully close to dinner time. And the last line of the movie is Joey walking out of the house and saying,
What the fuck?
understatement of the century, my love. And that is the end of Abigail. I hope you enjoyed, folks. This was a long recording, these always are though, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed. This movie is really fucking good. It's really funny, it knows what it is. It's not like the best of the best vampire movies ever made, I wouldn't say. I enjoyed this movie more than any other vampire movie or anything like that we have seen in recent years, other than Sinners. Sinners was a banger, but minus Sinners, this movie is up there for me. There are so many things that I enjoyed about it, but the big elephant in the room that I'm gonna bring up is the girl who plays Abigail. What the fuck? I don't know how she was able to act so menacing and so evil and just downright diabolical. There were so many scenes where her acting just genuinely blew me away. It was crazy. Like, how do you have the life experience to be able to portray that type of like sinisterness in you? Alicia Weir, she's 16 years old. Whoa, that's kind of crazy actually. So yeah, now give or take like 12 to 14 when this movie was filmed. Out of everyone in the cast, she was the standout, you know? Among all of these like well-established actors who have found their way in this fucking field and have so much experience under their belt, this child outshined every single one of them. But like, I would be lying if I said that it wasn't a little disturbing for me to see a literal child covered head to toe in blood. But like, don't get me wrong, the rest of the cast were great. Right, this is crazy that I didn't know this until now, but I literally just went to watch an interview while I was on a break from editing, and it turns out that Alicia Weir, the girl who plays Abigail, is from Dublin. What can I say? We just have amazing talent here. I'm going to be working on a lot more movie commentaries going forward. I want this type of like video to be one of my main videos. So next week I'm going to be working on a load of them and hopefully getting up as many as I possibly can. But yeah, if there's anything that you think that I could add to these types of videos or change about these types of videos that would make it more enjoyable for you, let me know down below. But yeah, make sure to subscribe. We're on the road to 3K. Leave a like, comment, all that good shit. Helps with the algorithm, helps put my face out there. And yeah, with that all said, I'll see you all in the next one. Have a good one, folks.